10TV's legendary sports anchor, Dom Barry. Welcome to Link Ahead.
Lindsay, this is the first time I've ever done a podcast, so I'm excited.
I can't believe
Dom's first podcast.
I can feel the butterflies in my stomach. Kind of reminds me, you know, when you used to play sport back in the day, and the butterflies are going. That's what I feel right now.
We are talking about Dublin, Ohio becoming the most connected city in the U.S.
We are on site of this year's Dublin Corporate Charity Cup.
Yes, it's a battle of the businesses.
So tell us, Allison, who is gracing the stage at Kaufman Stadium this year?
Well, hey, Bruce. And as you mentioned, I am in Dublin, Ireland. So our first international podcast episode.
He then won a World Series ring with the Atlanta Braves in '95. And by the way, he's a heck of a pickleball player these days. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Kent Merker to Link Ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. And Bruce, we are wrapping up season 2 and already hard at work on season 3.
That's hard to believe, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We thought we'd dedicate this episode to highlight every guest we've welcomed this season, and it's a lot. Not to mention the topics we've covered, from new city services, expanded city services, to great events, some absolute rock star residents who call Dublin home.
We did some pretty cool things in season 2, like taking Link Ahead on the road a couple of times to events themselves. And Bruce, when you look back on this season, what stands out for you?
You know, it's funny, being with the city for as long as I've been here, Paul Hammersmith is a rock star.
So true.
And he was talking about roundabouts, and it was more than that. He has that enthusiasm about the city that you want to hear if you're a resident. And you're like, oh man, I want our city engineer to be that enthusiastic about the city. And he's a rock star. I mean, we've seen him in HOA meetings. We had him on here. I don't even think he read a word. He was just, we didn't have to script him. He was a rock and roll star.
You are absolutely right. He was so genuine, and he was basically a commercial for public service and giving back to the community.
So same question, right back to you, Lindsay.
Oh, no, this is going to sound really self-serving, but I mean, I did a podcast from Dublin, Ireland, so let's
correct that. You did a podcast from Ireland. The rest of us, Scott Light, our producer, holding down the fort here in Dublin. So yeah, let's just be correct on that.
I have to say that was a standout moment for me for sure. But I did like the times we took it on the road. We went to the Dublin Corporate Charity Cup. That was a lot of fun, a lot of energy for that one. And of course, we got to give a shout out to Allison Leroy. So far, only repeat guest, and every time just hits it out of the park with over 2,000, 3,000 listens. So we're gonna have her on every year.
I think so. It's a done deal. And so let's get back to more guests and a walk through the year that was.
Our special guest today, ready to talk about new initiatives for residents and businesses, what we can learn from other cities, her cool world travels, why one author of business books is her absolute favorite, and how the census helps Dublin. Please welcome to Link Ahead, Vice Mayor Kathy DeRosa.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I have to say, we have had Mayor Jane Fox and Councilman John Reiner on Link Ahead, and we really enjoy getting to know our council members better, and we know our listeners are too.
One of the things that makes Dublin so fantastic is that we just really get an opportunity to find time and connect with each other, whether that's our council folks or our community, so delighted to be here.
We all know that Dublin has world-class amenities and services, and what drives those is our world-class workforce. And here to talk about that and city hiring practices are our two guests, HR Director Jennifer Miglietti and HR Coordinator Kate Fuddy. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome. And as we record, there is snow on the ground here in Ohio, but we are in full seasonal hiring mode for spring and summer. In fact, your daughter was just looking for a job, right, Bruce?
Absolutely.
So it's time. Let's start off really broadly, though, because everyone has been talking about hiring and workforce and all of the challenges over the past couple of years. This question for you, Jennifer: how has hiring changed since COVID and the great labor shortage?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's changed a lot. It's gone from us being able to have 300 to 400 to 500 applicants for a job, and sometimes we're getting 30 and 40. So there is a big change. We're still able to pull fantastic candidates, but it seems as though people have weeded themselves out in a sense, and it's probably because there's so many opportunities available, and it's an employee's market right now to jump around and find what works best for your lifestyle.
And Kate, you're in charge of seasonal hiring. Tell us about the jobs we are trying to fill right now for summer.
We get into our
busiest time of the year in the spring and especially in the summer with the city. Our summer camps are fully operational. Our outdoor pools are open. Our parks need a lot more maintenance during those seasons. And we have the majority of our events and some of our most popular, most well-known events happen during the summer. And none of that happens without volunteers, obviously, but also our incredible staff.
Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. To make our city go, it takes great leadership and exceptional vision. And it all starts with our city council.
Here to discuss it all is City Council member Christina Luda. Welcome to Link Ahead.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Before we get to your service here in Dublin, we want to start with public service, which has been a real guiding star in your whole career. You've held executive roles at Solid Waste Authority of Central Ohio, the Moritz College of Law at Ohio State, the Fisher College of Business at Ohio State, and the Community Housing Network. What is it that drew you to public service, and what has kept you in it?
I think public service is something that's been in my life my whole life. My father and my mother both worked in public service as professors, and it's just something that's been in our family forever. So for me, serving people is what makes me happy. So I guess you could say it's a little bit of a self-motivating factor for me.
Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. This is a first for Link Ahead in that this is the first time we've had a Hall of Famer on the show.
Wow, a Hall of Famer. I can't believe it's March already, Bruce.
I know, it's crazy.
We got a lot coming up. We have our State of the Community on March 9th, and then someone's birthday, I think, is in there,
it's mine.
Right?
It's
yeah,
mine.
Your birthday's
Absolutely.
coming up.
Thanks for throwing the parade for me, by the way.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, I think there might be something else going on that weekend besides your birthday, and it is the grandest parade. So who do you think we have for our guest today, Bruce?
I think we have the Grand Leprechaun with us today.
None other than Grand Leprechaun. Please welcome Deb Papish to Link Ahead. Hi, Deb.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me here. And the parade is all about you, my friend.
Thank
It
you.
is for
Thanks,
your
Deb.
birthday.
Every year.
It's
every
just
year.
a cover.
So let's start here. Where were you when you found out you were chosen as this year's Grand Leprechaun?
Well, this is a funny story. I was actually doing some fundraising work for the Dublin Food Pantry.
Aww.
I was out in Westerville at the Parks and Mead law offices, speaking to them about becoming a sponsor.
Oh, nice.
And I got the phone call from Jane, from Mayor Jane Fox.
She was already doing the work, and then she gets the call. And then what was your reaction?
Well, I stepped outside, and she said, are you able to take this call? I said, sure. But then she said, it sounds like you're at a party. And I said, I am. It sounds like you're at a party. She said, I am. And then she told me, and I said, are you serious? I was totally shocked, surprised.
Well, congratulations, and we can't think of a
Congrats.
better person.
Thank you.
Was there a formal presentation of the sash, and do you get a scepter, or does anything come with that?
Well, it's called a shillelagh, and it's the little walking cane.
Okay.
And I'm learning more Irish words and terminology. I get a top hat, and there is a sash involved in this. So, I was never in any kind of pageant. So this would be my one life pageant, right? To be the Grand Leprechaun.
And I think we have a picture of you in the top hat that we'll have to share on social media.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm not a hat person particularly, so I was a little nervous about that. But we found one to fit the bun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. This is another first for Link Ahead in that it's the first time we've taken this recording internationally. My co-host, Lindsay, is joining us from Dublin, Ireland. Lindsay, this is one of those wow moments for sure. Tell our listeners where you are right this second.
Well, hey, Bruce. And as you mentioned, I am in Dublin, Ireland. So our first international podcast episode. And believe it or not, I just stepped off of O'Connell Street, where they wrapped up the Dublin, Ireland St. Patrick's Day Parade.
So, Lindsay, what is the St. Patrick's Day Parade like in Ireland?
It's obviously big. It was about 2 hours long.
Wow.
It is honestly interesting thing. I'm here with Mayor Jane Fox and our community events director, Allison Leroy. And Mayor Fox is saying that our parade in Dublin, Ohio is actually more Irish than the one here in Ireland, because we certainly have more Irish dancers and Irish music and things like that. This was just a little bit more representative of their cultural arts. So they have, they're called pageants, and it's almost like mini plays or things like that people are all dressed up and representing stories. So we are the guest of the Lord Mayor here in Dublin, and we got to sit in the grandstands in the front row with her and her family. And she arrived in a 17th century carriage.
Wow.
That dropped her off at the parade right at the grandstands, and she gets out of this carriage and puts on her Lord Mayor chains and comes over and sits next to our group at the grandstand.
That is awesome. Well, Lindsay, I know this was not easy to put together. I wish you safe travels, and we'll see you back here stateside in a few.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce, and thank you for holding down the fort back there in Dublin, and I'll be back soon.
Well, thank you all for being here to help us envision Dublin. Thank you for giving your time and caring so much about your community. I'm Lindsay Weisenauer, and this is Bruce Edwards, and we are on the city's communications and public information team. And Bruce and I are the hosts of Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. Most of you in this room tonight probably didn't realize that you were going to be part of our first ever podcast to be recorded in front of a live studio audience.
All right, let's get started here. Let's start with the same question for each of you so we can get your unique perspectives. That question is, why do we plan? And let's start with you, Megan.
So Dublin is known for, and we have a reputation for being a very thoughtfully planned community. And that really is, I believe, what sets us apart from other communities. We plan because it provides a democratic process, for one thing. We are a democracy, and we want to make sure that the community that we build and we envision, how do you like that? The community that we envision is the community that our residents would like to live in and to work in and to recreate in. So that is what is most important to us.
This is the moment you want to be in Central Ohio. This is the moment you want to be in Dublin. There's so much opportunity. There's so much growth. There's so much change happening. And when you face something like that as a community, you want to make sure that you're making that growth work for you. We like to say we want to grow better as we grow bigger.
Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. And you know every month in Dublin is Earth Month, but we really step it up each April, right, Bruce?
That's right, Lindsay. City Council has the vision of being the most sustainable global city of choice, which is a lofty goal, but one that we can totally rally around. And here to talk about all things green is management analyst Emily Gulliver. Emily, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This has really been a dream of mine for a while now.
Nice. Let's start here. What's one thing we're doing this Earth Month that you're most excited about?
It's hard to pick just one. We have a lot of stuff going on. And what I really like about what we have is that there's something for everyone. So there's diversion programs with our Document Destruction Day. There's a planting with the Ferris Wright planting that we have on Earth Day. And then we also have a drug take-back event, which helps our water supply and keeping our water supply clean. I think that I'm a little biased on this one, but we have partnered with the Chamber of Commerce's Leadership Dublin program to do a native plant planting on Earth Day. It's not a public planting, right, but it's a recommendation out of our Community Services Advisory Commission to set up an educational planting bed. So our Leadership Dublin class has taken that over, and they will be doing that planting and working with your team on the graphics and on the educational and promotional component. So I really like that one because it shows our partnership with the Chamber, and it is also something that we're doing at the recommendation of our CSAC.
Sure.
And part of what's so great about this is, people need to wait for an event. This just kind of lets people know what they can do. So you can plant native plants in your own backyard. And everybody, I think that to encourage everybody just to do something during Earth Month, to contribute to the environment, that's kind of what it's all about.
Absolutely. And this will be available as well for our commercial residents that want to see how can a landscape bed work on their commercial properties. So it's at our service center. So it's the City of Dublin showing, here's one of our office buildings that we've converted one of our beds to native plants. So I'm excited about that.
Okay, Bruce, quick rapid fire for you. What's the first book you remember reading that really had an influence on you?
Oh my goodness, rapid fire ran out of the gate.
We're just switching it up today.
I'm going to say, all right, so teen fiction was limited when I was a youth back in the day. So I'm going to say The Hardy Boys, The House on the Cliff. That was
the best
suspenseful, got me in reading a series of books. There was also The Yearbook, which my mom thought I needed to read because I was the youngest of three. I got made fun of a lot by my brothers. My ears, I finally grew into them. So that's a tangent neither here nor there. So same question back to you, Lindsay.
The first book I remember reading is called Stonewords. Then after that, I got into a lot of R.L. Stein and Christopher Pike. And so it kind of set me up for, I guess, liking mystery books.
Wow. So everybody listening to this episode is bound to have a book like that. One that really spoke to them, one that made them laugh out loud, cry, or just make them think.
Well, I haven't cried lately, but maybe I'm not reading the right books. So today we're talking books and giving listeners all kinds of great reads to put on your list from a real expert. Chrissy Harris, librarian at Columbus Metropolitan Library. Welcome to Link Ahead.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's keep rolling. Continue the same question to you. What was the first book that spoke to you and why?
Well, Lindsay, like you, I read a lot as a kid. I was the one walking around the house with the book in front of my face down the stairs, probably scaring my parents half to death. So I remember reading, Sweet Valley Twins, Sweet Valley High, all of those series that just went on forever. But I stopped reading a little bit in middle school, and I remember reading Crime and Punishment in my world literature class.
Wow.
And it actually really appealed to my teenage self because it was so dramatic. Everyone's got these feelings and they're falling over in fevers and just crying and yelling. And I really liked it. And I think that's what turned me back into a reader.
Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. June is Pride Month, a time designated for celebrating and supporting the LGBTQ plus community.
And in Dublin, we absolutely celebrate Pride Month. Rainbow Dublin just hosted a great event over the weekend, and my favorite time of the year, the Link is lit up in rainbow color. It looks the absolute best. But we want our listeners to know that this is a city where all are welcomed, safe, and valued all year round, 12 months of the year, 365 days a year. And our guest today is Dublin police officer and city LGBTQ plus liaison, Amber McCloskey. Thanks so much. Welcome to Link Ahead.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
There's a pretty long list of responsibilities you have in this liaison role, and we'll get to those in a little bit, personally and professionally. Why did you want to take this role on top of what we already know as a stressful and time-consuming job of being a police officer?
Sure. So I think that this is important for a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, though, I would say it's important for members and visitors alike to know that they are welcome in Dublin, they are safe in Dublin, and their voices are going to be heard in Dublin. This liaison position was sort of a personal endeavor for me, and it's been a goal of mine to strive to be the police officer I wish I would have known when I was a kid.
A big, exciting topic today. We are talking about Dublin, Ohio becoming the most connected city in the U.S.
Boom. It's big, it's bold, and that's how we do things in Dublin.
Right.
For our residents and with our residents. Our guest today is the man who's been the driving force in all of this.
Yes, really from the very beginning, from hosting meetings and coffees with residents to formulating our state-of-the-art 10-gig fiber network. Dublin's Chief Information Officer, Doug McCullough. Welcome to Link Ahead.
Awesome. Great to be here with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised we haven't had you on here yet. But, we were saving you just for this occasion. So let's start off really broad, and then we'll jump into the tech weeds. Why are we doing this?
Well, we're doing this because broadband for families and homes and residents, it has become more important over the last few years. Many of our residents have noticed the kind of broadband and fiber investments that the city of Dublin has done for its business community for a long time and wanted to see something like this happen. Quite frankly, the pandemic showed all of us that things that were desirable or nice to have become critical. Right. And as we move forward towards the future, it's just going to get more and more important. So that's why we're doing it.
Lindsay, it's the episode we've all been waiting
It's
for.
True. Yes, right out of the gate, we have to thank our listeners for tuning in once again as we announce our Independence Day entertainment. This worked out so well last year, and we are really excited to break the news on Link Ahead again this year.
And we have to say, most of our episodes get a couple hundred listens, which is great. But last year, our Independence Day announcement got over 2,000 listens.
2,000, right. So we love all of our guests, but we have to admit, Allison, you are our favorite. Of course.
Allison Roy, Director of Community Events, the woman in charge of it all, the woman with the scoop. Welcome back to Link Ahead.
Thank you so much. I love being here, and I love this day. It's so exciting.
It is so exciting. We're really geeked out. We have to share, there's a funny little competition around the staff members who've been podcast guests who like to say they're going to beat Allison's number. And as Bruce mentioned, no one has really come close. So I'm thinking maybe the only person who can beat Allison is Allison.
It's Allison versus Allison.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm getting over 2,000. Let's go for 3,000.
Yeah, three.
Okay, so this is our episode where it's 150% appropriate to name drop. Past headliners have included Gary LaVox, Sheryl Crow, Joe Walsh, Peter Frampton, Earth, Wind & Fire, and my favorite, Rick Springfield. Dublin always does it right. Before we get to the big reveal, tell our listeners how you approach this huge endeavor every year. Do you start with like a wish list of 10 acts and then will it down to 5 and then negotiate with several? What do you do?
Actually, I think our wish list starts, and I think the wish list is like 100,000 people. Every band you ever heard of in your life. You know, I walk down the streets and I get people say, hey, have you thought about so-and-so? So we get lots of advice. You know, we talk to council to see, you know, kind of what they're interested in. So we go through multiple processes, and then we go back to the agents and say, okay, who's available, who's touring, who wants to be in Dublin? Are they near Dublin? You know,
Sure.
Sometimes we get bands who would be perfect, but they're in Europe this summer or things like that. So it's all just, you know, there's always putting the pieces together, because putting everybody together in the right place at the right time.
And you have the added element of having someone who wants to quote unquote work on the 4th of July.
Yeah, it's amazing, because we actually get their list, and you'll see so many of them have like blocked out that weekend, basically, because it's, you know, just
Sure,
you guys want to spend time with your family, they want to spend time with their family too.
Right.
So sometimes that makes it a little interesting.
That seems like a perfect segue. So tell us, Allison, who is gracing the stage at Kauffman Stadium this year?
We're super excited to announce that one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time, Ann Wilson from Heart.
Yes.
Yes. Wow.
First of all, I already knew that, and I'm still just as excited when you told me. But she is absolutely fantastic. And you were just talking about cross-generational. They had hits in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the 2000s, Rock Hall of Fame. Ann Wilson, fantastic vocalist, absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, her voice is amazing. I mean, you think about Barracuda, all these hits, that Crazy on You. There's so many hits that they can perform. Holy smokes.
Yeah, and there's two just recent things. It's funny. We went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy
the
other weekend, and I'm sitting there in the first 5 minutes, what comes on? A Heart song, and Crazy for You. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is, you know, just hilarious that this is the first thing that comes up. So it's pretty exciting.
I just saw a trailer for the Meg 2, which I'm sure will do gangbusters at the box office. Anyways, Barracuda is in that.
Of course.
So
yeah.
it's crazy how these songs are just transcend time.
I also just saw she's going to be on Dolly Parton's new Rockstar album. She was one of the people just picked for that. So that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Well, she's one of the biggest collaborators of all time, and you're talking about cross-generational and different genres. Eminem covered a Heart song.
Yeah.
Ann Wilson does this cover of Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, yeah.
And you see Robert Plant crying like when she's performing it because it's so transcendent. It's beautiful. Something else we tried this season and listeners responded to, well, by listening, is introducing our audience to some Rockstar Dublin residents. 10TV's legendary sports guy, Dom Taberi, has made Dublin his home for decades.
Plus, did you know we have a World Series champ living right here, too? MLB pitcher Kent Mercker won a ring with the Atlanta Braves and now has a new sports addiction.
And I know that was one of your favorite episodes,
It was
Bruce.
awesome.
Well, you were born in Dublin, and we mentioned in your days at Kauffman High School, you played baseball in every city imaginable and could have retired anywhere in the world. So why did you come back to Dublin here?
You know, I love it here. Like I said, I've been here forever, and I've watched this city grow up. I mean, I think I had 210 in my graduating class.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
In 86. And
In one high school.
In one high school, yeah. Well, people still ask me which one I went to. I'm like, man, I'm 55. There wasn't even there were 4 policemen, I think, or 6 policemen on the 4th. But you know what? We always maintained a home here. My daughters, well, my oldest was born in Atlanta when I was playing there, but my other 2 were born here at Riverside, and all my family's here. My wife's family's here. So it was for my family. If I got traded or if I was on a long road trip, they always had some place to call home where they had people around them that they knew. And I just love the city. I mean, schools are great. I mean, just everything about this city is outstanding, and it's a perfect place to retire, raise a family, and then retire.
Right. So let's stay on the topic of this city. So, we have some of the nicest pickleball courts around, and they're just a few hundred feet away from where we're recording right now at City Hall. So you just took up pickleball like 3 or 4 years ago, and you've already played in the U.S. Open in Florida. What is it about the sport you like so much, and what translates from baseball to pickleball?
Well, one, the competitiveness translates.
Okay.
But what drew me to it, a buddy of mine that actually opened the Pickle Shack up in Delaware asked me to play it one day 3.5 years ago. And I'm like, I've never even heard of it. So I Google it. And of course, the default video is 4 75-year-old people at the Villages.
At the Villages.
Playing it. And you're like, never. I'm not playing it. I mean, what's the point? And then he sends me another video. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. And I've never played paddle sports or racket sports growing up, so I wasn't very good. I had decent hand-eye coordination. I was still kind of quick, but I was getting beat up by people that I'm looking at going, no way, am I losing to this?
It's the great equalizer.
And I never said it out loud, maybe 4 times, and I said, I want to get good at this. And it was just a challenge for me. So, and now it's a great way, like I was talking to you guys earlier, get up early, get a sweat, compete, listen to some music, have fun, and then get your day going. So, but it's the most addicting sport I've ever played. It truly is, and I can't explain it.
Oh, Dom. Well, we're going to begin with the calendar because it's August, which means the Buckeyes are gearing up for another football season. From what you're hearing and seeing, how are they looking this year?
Well, I mean, obviously expectations are always high in Columbus, Ohio, when it comes to Ohio State, and for that matter, the Buckeye State.
How did you and Terry come to settle and raise your kids in Dublin?
Well, it's interesting because I'd spent a lot of time up here with, got to know Dublin pretty well, covering the Memorial Tournament and everything. And when it came time to look for schools and where we wanted to go, and I was actually at a bowl game when we bought our house.
Oh, boy.
It was one of these deals where I'm down in Florida covering the Buckeyes. and my wife goes, hey, guess what? And I go, what? She goes, because, the kids were getting to that age where we were going to have to, send them to school. And she goes, I think I want the kids to go to Dublin schools. I said, okay.
Smart woman.
Yeah, like you mean that village we drove through to go to Plain City?
Yeah. Well, I knew it was no longer a village. But so I'm at the bowl game and she goes, yeah. And I go, where are you talking? And she told me, oh, it's on Rings Road. I go, well, I know where that is. It's out in the country. Where are you taking me? And she had bought a spec home or like put down the whatever. And I don't know how things work in your house, but what is mine is hers and hers is hers. And whatever Terry Tiberi wants, Terry Tiberi gets. And so that's how we ended up in Dublin. We are very lucky with that. I look at the rec center. I'm a member over there. And then I'm a biker. I like riding my bike and the bike pass and everything. You can't, plus, I can see myself in the years coming up playing pickleball, and I love that. So, and I'm, my kids are, my daughter is in the Dublin area. Her kids will go to Dublin schools, but she just built a house up the street, so we're kind of locked in now.
That's the best.
That can only mean one thing. It's time to talk about the 2023 Dublin Irish Festival. So welcome this year's honorary chair, Ian Montgomery. Ian, welcome to Link Ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe this time has finally arrived. It all seemed like months away, and now we're weeks. And I can feel the butterflies in my stomach.
You've had months of planning like you're talking about. You're a spokesperson and an ambassador, too. So what does being the honorary chair mean to you?
Yeah, well, I guess I get the easy job. I get to ride around on floats waving at people and go down to the crew game for Irish Heritage Night and stuff like that. So, and get to hang out with you guys, of course. So the easy thing falls on me.
Really, though, the lifeblood of this podcast is the dedication to city services by our employees. We get a chance to introduce you, our listeners, to leaders on City Council, here at City Hall, and employees throughout the city who make Dublin the place to live in Ohio. It truly is an honor.
Let's bring on our guest, Dublin's public art manager, Dr. Ava Truman Morgan. Welcome to Link Ahead.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Well, we try to be really timely with all of our episodes, and this one certainly fits the bill for the August calendar because on August 24th, the city and the Dublin Arts Council will officially dedicate the Boat in the Field at ML Red Tribune Nature Reserve along Post Road. Tell us about this piece of art.
Yes, we are really excited for this. It's been about 2 years in the making. The Boat in the Field was created by a world-renowned sculptor. His name is Ilan Averbuk. He was born in Israel, and he currently lives and works in Long Island City, New York. So the piece itself, it's called The Boat in the Field, and it is a 25 by 18-foot sculpture. It's made of Corten steel and recycled granite. What's really cool about this piece is there's two kind of intertwined forms. So there is a boat, and then there is also a tower or a shelter that is kind of housed in the boat. And then there's this series of columns beneath the boat that make it appear like it's either floating in midair or perhaps it's walking through the field. It's very whimsical, but it's also just massive. It looks like it weighs a lot, so there's a lot of kind of defying gravity. So the artist is really hoping that the artwork inspires questions from the viewers. So what is this boat in the field? How did it arrive here? Is it floating or is it walking out of the water? Where might it be going? So we're really excited to share it with the community.
Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. And once again, we are taking our show on the road, not too far away from our studio space at City Hall.
That's right, Lindsay. Today we are on location at the Dublin Community Recreation Center's new esports programming center, called the Respawn Lounge. Yes. And our guests today are Director of Recreation Services, Tracy G., and Recreation Program Supervisor, Phil Gross. Welcome to Link Ahead.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. And Tracy, not only are you a longtime member of the City of Dublin leadership team, but you are also an avid gamer, right?
I am. You've outed me.
And what about you, Phil?
I would not say I'm an avid gamer, but I've learned a lot in the last years. We've kind of pulled this together. I played a lot of console games growing up, but I've learned a lot in the PC world recently in the last year or so.
Well, that's not a bad gig, really. Hey, we need you to play some video games.
Wait, not all games have joysticks anymore? I thought we were...
There are worse things to be tasked with at work, that's for sure.
Many people know our city is a great place to work, and some of our dedicated employees have been here for decades.
Well, enough about you, Bruce. Our guest today is one of those people. He's been here 24 years. Coincidentally, that means he's been here for all 24 roundabouts. He's also been crowned most popular staff member at every HOA meeting I've ever been to because he has answers to things like, when is my street going to be paved? Or when are the improvements going to come to the neighborhood park? So please welcome Director of Engineering, Paul Hammersmith. Welcome to Link Ahead.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
So let's just start with 24 roundabouts. Where was the first one and how revolutionary was it?
Our first roundabout was at the Muirfield Brand intersection, constructed in 2004, so just 19 years ago. Unfortunately, it was the result of a tragic traffic accident where a 2-year-old boy, Nicholas Watkins, lost his life, unfortunately, at that intersection, which was really a great motivating factor for staff to look at how could we improve that intersection. And we already had known that we needed to do an improvement there, but we weren't quite sure what. And as we got looking into it, given the uniqueness of the location, we landed on a roundabout. And very quickly, within less than a year, designed the roundabout, got city council support, community support, and aggressively pursued the design and then the construction to have it open before school started at the new Dublin Jerome High School in 2004.
Oh, yeah. And that's what it's all about is safety. And, people love them or hate them. Roundabouts, They are safer. And if you do have an accident, it reduces the severity.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. And it's really 3 factors. First and foremost, safety is absolutely paramount in any roundabout itself. Next is really the efficiency of the roundabout, the capacity to move traffic, and just the calmness of which it does move traffic. That was probably the most surprising thing at Muirfield Brand after it was built, going out there and realizing how quiet the intersection was.
Here to talk about all things sustainable and how Dublin ranks as one of the best cities for these efforts is Public Service Administrator Michael Darling. Michael, welcome to Link Ahead.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Michael, we're a little nerdy here, and we love to talk about
Hey, speak
numbers.
for yourself.
It's all right, I'm a lot nerdy. Tell our listeners just how many pounds of stuff you and your team deal with on a yearly basis. I mean, you deal with trash, recyclables, composting, styrofoam. Tell us about the stuff.
All of the things. We're going to go ahead and put this in tons because that's a lot more manageable.
Say.
But 21,044.5 tons last year.
Say that again.
21,044.5 tons.
Tons. Wow.
Tons.
Chipping, that's pumpkins, that's electronics, that's all of the steel from our engineering department. We keep track of literally everything. And the street sweepings, also we count that because it's actually, even though that goes to landfill, it doesn't go into the rivers and streams.
Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. Did you know you can become trained to use a speed laser and then capture speeds on a road?
I did. You can also request a ride-along with Dublin Police to see how speed is enforced, and you can request a speed study if you have concerns on your street.
This is all part of our new effort, Slow Down Dublin.
Slow Down Dublin.
Slow Down Dublin. And here to talk about it is Jeannie Willis, Director of Transportation Mobility. Welcome to Link Ahead, Jeannie.
Thank you very much.
Let's start with some myth busting about speed limits. What are some common misconceptions about speed?
Oh, well, there's a bunch of them. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. The first one that comes to mind is that people think that they can just call and request a speed limit change on a road.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't work that way here in the state of Ohio. Here in Ohio, the Ohio Revised Code sets the speed limit. And so here, especially, good engineering practices, follow what the actual speed limit on a road should be so that the two come together and they work together. Sometimes that's the magic. Sometimes it's not.
So with those as a baseline, let's get into the Slow Down Dublin program because there's a lot involved and we always want our residents both informed and involved in the process too. So if you go to our website, the Slow Down Dublin page, you can find a toolbox with all kinds of things that you can do to join us in this effort.
Now, Dublin has a long tradition of honoring and learning from our local veterans, and we certainly want to do that with today's episode. So please welcome U.S. Navy veteran and member of Dublin's Veterans Committee, Steve Dickman. Steve, thanks for joining us on Link Ahead.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, this is an obvious question. What does Veterans Day mean to you?
It means a lot to me. It reminds me of the camaraderie, my friends, and serving, doing something that's bigger than myself. And I think back when I initially, thought about enlisting, how I just simply wanted to do something that, my family could be proud of.
Sure.
And just remembering all the things that I got to do and be a part of it. I wish, I think about all my friends and going on a trip and seeing them, going over to Philadelphia where a lot of them live now and seeing their kids and all that sort of thing. So it's just it reminds me of the family that I had.
Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about with two guests who are tapped into everything happening in Dublin, especially now that the holidays are here.
They sure are. We love having two guests. And today we have Sharon Adamek with the Historic Dublin Business Association and Lauren Kosis with Crawford Hoying. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Well, let's begin with what you do together. Together, you represent the Downtown Dublin Strategic Alliance, which also includes the city, Visit Dublin, Ohio, Dublin Chamber, and Dublin Arts Council. This group works together to promote historic Dublin and Bridge Park, the whole experience. So tell us about that work, starting with Sharon.
So our Alliance group meets monthly to share news from each other. We talk about upcoming events and just all updates in general. We work together to support all of downtown Dublin through cross-promotions, collaborations, strategic planning. We brainstorm about ways to create experiences that bring people into the area. And basically, our common goal is to help create a thriving, vibrant downtown that encourages people to visit and stay in Dublin.
And Lauren, how about from the Bridge Park side?
Yeah, as part of DDSA, we meet and discuss how we can work together as a collective unit to continue our combined passion for making downtown Dublin a great place to live, work, and play. We're constantly looking for new ways to collaborate with each other, and I always enjoy our joint events like the Ugly Sweater Crawl, the holiday lighting in downtown Dublin, and a lot more.
Right. Is that ugly sweater crawl already sold out? Because that event's so popular every year. Everyone loves it. So.
Absolutely.
What's not a ticketed event?
Yeah, so anyone can go. Just wear your
technically,
sweatshirt,
the only
your sweater.
thing that's sold out is if you can't get in the bar, I guess.
Good point. Good point. Good point. Whoever said you can't come home again is, well, wrong.
You can, and we have proof today as our guest is coming back to the city as our Director of Economic Development, Jeremiah Gracia. Welcome to Link Ahead, welcome home, and back to Dublin.
All right. Hey, guys, welcome. Thank you very much, and it feels good and feels right to be back.
Well, good, Jeremiah. Bringing you back to Dublin at really such a critical time for the economy is huge for the city. But how excited are you to be back?
Well, really, really excited. So I can tell you that when my wife and I had this conversation about do we come back to Central Ohio, specifically Dublin, the conversation was very short. And she said, yes, I think we should do that. And by the way, I only have one more move left. So if we're going, we're going to go home.
So you're a lifer.
So
all
here
right,
we are.
good.
Yes,
You're back
here we are.
to stay.
As we start to wrap it up, it wouldn't be an episode of Link Ahead without rapid fire.
Okay, on your restaurant website, it says that you enjoy Guinness and Tullamore Dew Irish whiskey. If you can only have one on a deserted island, which one is it?
Oh, can you ask me which is my favorite kid?
For someone who's never heard of Dublin, Ohio, how would you describe it?
Innovative, cutting edge, green.
Everything's green. 3 talking points right there. Good job.
All right, you're at a game these days. What's your go-to stadium food or treat?
I'm an 8-year-old, so I go with the corn dog. I'm a corn dog guy anywhere I can find a corn dog.
Allison, what was the first act you secured that you remember being super geeked about?
Okay, well, this is super geeky because it was Davy Jones from the Monkees.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Lastly, Paul, when our podcast producer, Scott Light over there, was doing his research for this podcast, he checked out LinkedIn and he says, you have a profile, but no picture, no information, and you have yet to post one thing. So the question is, what's up with that?
What's LinkedIn? No, just kidding.
Oh, Paul. We close every episode with rapid questions. Lindsay, let's think back. What have been some of our most consistent answers to questions and some of our most bizarre answers?
Well, consistency, you know what I'm going to say. Dublin Village
Dublin
Tavern.
Village Tavern.
Everyone,
I feel like
at least 75-80% of people say that that's their go-to place.
I think we need to talk about sponsorship for the program.
Too, yes. How about you? How about bizarre answers? Do you remember any?
I mean, we've talked to people. We've talked to a man who lived in a submarine.
Oh,
I mean,
right.
That's
true.
That is something I've never talked to any human who's ever lived in a submarine for a long period of time. You talk about Allison when she would talk about some of the requests for the entertainers.
She has stories for days.
I mean, I feel like we could have her on here every other week to talk about something like that.
Right. So for me, now this is recency bias. We just had Sharon Adamick from HDBA on, and she said that her favorite park in town was the Dublin Cemetery.
Right.
So
right.
I had never heard that one before, but I have to tell you, when she was talking about it, I'm a believer now. Well, we've had a lot of fun with Season 2. To our listeners, we thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Season 3 is right around the corner, so get ready.
And as always, we thank you for taking the time to connect with your city. Tune in next time as we continue to explore the many personalities and experiences that make Dublin a thriving place to live, work, and grow.